The sublet on Lamberth Street, a Craigslist nightmare. My name's Malik. I was 26 when this happened. Back then I was just trying to stay afloat, working long shifts, juggling bills, watching the neighborhood I grew up in get more expensive every year. I'd been priced out of half the blocks I knew. When you're on Craigslist at 2 in the morning with your phone buzzing cold against the couch, you're not looking for perfect, you're looking for somewhere to land. So when a sublet popped up for a furnished room near the train for next to nothing, I jumped on it. Mason, that was the name on Venmo, told me to send the first week's rent and come that night. No deposit, no credit check. I should have known. But when you're two paychecks away from being on a friend's couch, red flags look like lifelines. The first 30 seconds after I walked in still sit in my chest like a weight. Every step I took into that building felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself was pressing down on me, thick with the stories of everyone who'd passed through before. The hallway light was a single bare bulb, humming low. Its flicker cast long, uncertain shadows on the peeling walls, making the space feel even more uncertain, like the building itself was holding its breath. I can still smell it now. Old sweat, carpet cleaner, and something metallic underneath, like the taste of coins you found under a car seat. The scent clung to everything, a reminder that nothing here was ever truly clean, just scrubbed enough to pass. I'd been told Mason would meet me at the door. He didn't. Instead, I stood there for a moment, listening to the muffled sounds of the city outside, wondering if I'd gotten the address wrong. Instead, the door swung inward and a woman's voice called out, "You Malik?" I said yeah and stepped inside, my heart thumping in my ears. Her tone was flat, businesslike, as if she'd done this 100 times before. The living room was thin with furniture and thinner with silence. A battered couch, a coffee table with chipped corners, and a single lamp that barely lit the space. A muted TV on the coffee table scrolled a news crawl without sound. Headlines flickered by, ignored by everyone in the room, as if the outside world had nothing to do with us anymore. Two men sat at the kitchen table eating from paper plates like I wasn't even there. Their eyes stayed on their food, their movements slow and deliberate, as if they were conserving energy for something more important. One of them glanced up, nodded. It wasn't a welcome. It was a practiced motion, the kind you give a stranger you're trying to keep calm. I could feel the tension in the room, a silent agreement not to ask questions. I kept my bag on my shoulder, scanned the place for locks, windows, any corner where I could sleep unseen. Every instinct told me to stay alert, to memorize every exit just in case. The room wasn't much, just a bed, another piece of old furniture with a lamp on top. Cheap, practical, perfect for someone who didn't ask questions. Privacy was a luxury here, traded for a roof and four walls. Marcus finally appeared, a big man with cheap cologne and somebody else's sweat still clinging to him. Cigarette burn on the arm of the chair he leaned back in. He looked me over, sizing me up in a single glance. "Rent's 200 a week," he said. "Utilities included. We move quick. You cool with that?" His voice was rough, but there was no threat in it, just the expectation that I'd say yes. My voice came out steady enough. "Yeah." I tried to sound like I belonged, like I'd done this before. I signed a paper he slid across the table. No deposit, no background check. Just a scribble. It felt like a transaction between ghosts. Quick, silent, and without any real connection. At the time it felt like relief. I didn't know then that relief in a place like this was just another word for survival, and that sometimes surviving meant learning to live with the weight you carried in with you. For the first week it was exactly what I'd needed. I worked my shifts, came home, kept my headphones low, paid cash. The men kept to themselves. The woman, Nina, worked nights at a hospital and left before sunrise. It wasn't home, but it was a roof. Then the little things started to stack. The first time I noticed the camera was in the bathroom. I was brushing my teeth, head down, and caught a sliver of glass in the vent above the mirror. A black dot. Tiny storm eye. I told myself it was a smoke detector, but there was no detector. It was a lens, and it wasn't pointed at the front door or the street. It was pointed at the sink. I brought it up to Nina over stale coffee the next morning. She didn't even blink. "Mason likes to keep tabs. Safety, you know." She said safety like it was a word you're supposed to swallow without chewing. I should have left then. But rent was low. I told myself I was being paranoid, told myself nobody was watching me brush my teeth with green foam in my mouth. Then I started looking. There was one behind a framed poster in the living room, another hidden in the lamp by my bed, another behind the bookshelf angled to see the bed in the hallway. Tiny black circles. Once you start looking, you can't stop. I went to Mason that night. The men at the table didn't even look surprised. Mason laughed. "Everybody records in here," he said. "It's how we keep us all straight. Make sure we don't get robbed. Make sure we don't get crazy. You got a problem with that? You can go." He said it like a landlord. He said it like a man who had already decided whether you stayed. Then there were the packages, not delivered to the door, but slipped under a side gate, carried in by a man who never seemed to leave. Men came and went with heavy backpacks, faces tight, eyes sliding off me. Once somebody dropped a bag on the stair and left a spill that smelled like burnt plastic. Nina said it was a battery. Marcus said nothing. I started speaking softer at night, like the lenses had ears. I stopped bringing people over. My phone began showing photos I didn't remember taking. Me asleep in the bed, my backpack open like a limp flag, my stuff rearranged just enough to let me know someone had been there. I told myself I'd leave after payday. I told myself I'd lock my door and go. It was after midnight. The city was wrapped in a winter blue night, the kind that makes your breath fog in the air, every exhale a ghost. The cold bit through my coat as I walked, each step echoing on the icy sidewalk. The city was quiet in that way where you think it's sleeping, but you know deep down it's just holding its breath, waiting. The silence felt heavy, almost expectant, as if something was about to break. I reached my building and fumbled for the keys, hands numb. But the door was already open, swinging slightly in the draft. Not just ajar, wide open like an invitation or a warning. Inside, the TV was off, the room darker than usual, shadows stretching across the floor. Cigarette smoke and bleach clung to the air, thick and acrid, stinging my nose. It was a smell that meant trouble. Voices drifted from the back room, not arguing but counting, low and methodical. The kind of counting you hear when people take inventory, careful, intense, as if every number mattered. A man I'd barely seen before stood by the window, a scar running along his jaw, eyes sharp. A heavy bag rested at his feet. He looked at me like I was a question he didn't want to answer. "You back?" he asked, voice flat. "Yeah," I said. "What's going on?" He didn't answer, just stared. Nina walked in, arms straining with a cardboard box full of small, square packages, her face drawn and tired. She set it down on the table with a heavy sigh, shoulders slumping as if the weight was more than just the box. "We got a problem," she said, her voice bone-tired, eyes flicking to the door. The scarred man pulled a handheld radio from his pocket, thumb hovering over the button. "2 at the north gate, 4 at the back," he muttered into it, voice clipped. "Move the stuff when they come," he ordered, urgency in his tone. The room snapped into motion. The word "they" hit me like a fist. My heart pounded in my chest. Not customers, not friends. Them. Somewhere upstairs, doors banged, footsteps thudded overhead, an engine idled outside, rumbling through the floorboards. My stomach dropped, dread pooling inside me. The thin man looked at me with something like pity, eyes softening for a moment. "You stay put," he said, voice low but firm. "We don't want a witness." The words hung in the air, heavy as the night outside. I didn't stay put. My heart hammered in my chest as I moved, every step echoing in the silence of the apartment. I ducked into my room, crawled under the thin blanket like I could be invisible, hoping the darkness would swallow me whole. The lamp camera saw me. Its little red light blinked, unblinking, always watching. The bookshelf camera saw me too, catching every nervous glance, every shallow breath. In the living room, boxes shifted and plastic clacked, the sound sharp in the quiet, making me flinch. 2 new voices came in, laughing like they'd done this before, like this was just another night for them. My phone vibrated, a tiny lifeline I couldn't reach for. A text, "We good?" from a number I didn't know. 1 blue check. I didn't answer. I couldn't risk it. They came into my room, filling the doorway, blocking any hope of escape. The thin man and another guy who smelled like motor oil, sweat, and something sour. They didn't bother to close the door. They opened my bag like they owned the place, like I wasn't even there. Took my cash, my earbuds, my jacket, anything they could grab, anything that mattered. Rifled through my clothes like they were looking for something else, something hidden, something I didn't even know I had. Then the thin man looked directly at the lamp. He tapped it, smiled like he was sharing a secret with me. "You see this?" he said. "Everything gets recorded." His voice was cold, almost amused. He yanked the camera out of the lamp like a prize, wires dangling, plastic cracking, held it up, the little black circle staring at me, reflecting my fear back at me. "You all right, Malik?" he said, which meant nothing and everything. That's when I moved, adrenaline taking over, just a shove, not much, but enough. He stumbled back, surprise flashing across his face. The lamp knocked into the bookshelf. Glass shattered, the sound exploding in the small room. For a second the room was just light and burnt plastic, the air thick with panic and smoke. Then they went for me. I ran, feet pounding the floor, desperate to get away, to breathe, to survive. Down the stairs, two at a time, barefoot, my foot cut on something sharp. I didn't stop until concrete met my palms and the cold bit at my face. Didn't look back. Just ran until I found the blue line of the train and slid into a seat that smelled like brake dust and perfume. I didn't sleep that night, crashed on a friend's couch, filed a police report that felt more like paperwork than a plea for help. Gave them the pieces of the camera, what little I had left. Mason texted the next day, "Man up, don't make trouble." He was hiding out somewhere unknown. I blocklisted him, moved 2 days later, left with nothing but my phone, a backpack, and the knowledge that someone had been watching me brush my teeth. I still check vents now, still look at lamps, still twitch when I hear the hum of a thin bulb. The worst part is the not knowing. I never found out what those boxes were, who else lived in that building, whether they used the apartments as homes or as storage. The cameras are gone, the footage, whatever it showed, is swallowed into the night. But I remember the way the man held the camera and smiled like he owned my privacy. I remember the lamp falling and the glass cutting the air like a small, clean scream. I tell this not to scare you out of moving, but to warn you. When a deal looks too good and a man's nod feels rehearsed, listen to that feeling. Craigslist saved me a month's rent but cost me a piece of my peace. If you ever find a sublet that smells off, check the vents. Take your eyes with you. Think that was disturbing? Trust me, it only gets worse from here. Subscribe to the YouTube channel Sights of Horror and keep your lights on tonight.